Welcome to the Design Dash podcast, your guide to designing a life you love. Join us as we explore the keys to living the life you want without compromise. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Design Dash podcast. I'm your co-host, Melissa, and I'm here with my other co-host, Laura. And today we're going to talk about profit first. So if you got a chance to listen in on our last podcast, we were talking about time billing, how to log time billing, and why we believe that billing hourly is so important for your profitability as a business owner, then you're going to love this conversation where we're talking about profit first. So we get so many questions about, how do I know when that I can afford to hire? Or how do I know that I can afford this huge 2-day photo shoot that I need for my portfolio? Uh, the reason that we have that we've built is because we look at things profit first. So people are always taking a look at profit as, here's my sales, here's my revenue minus my expenses, and whatever's left over is my profit. We kind of flip the script a little bit on that, where it's our revenue or the sales that we're making from furniture and time billing minus the profit that we want to make equals our expenses. So when we're budgeting, the first thing that we think of is how much money do we want to put down to the bottom line? And then we work backwards from there to figure out how much then can I spend on that big marketing initiative, or maybe we want to donate to charity as a business development initiative. How can we do that? And I think that that's been really effective for us when we're doing our budgeting. So we'll talk a little bit about that today with a couple of different notes, and maybe if you're interested in thinking profit first, this is a good start.
Yeah, and I think it's great to start with where the idea of profit first came from, or like I first heard it in the book Profit First, and I'm going to butcher his last name, the author, Michalowicz,
Michalowicz, I think.
Michalowicz, something like that, but it's Profit First. And so honestly, you can probably read the first couple chapters and be good. Or maybe there's like God, I'm dating myself, Cliff's Notes version of this. A Blink. How about a Blink article? But the premise is exactly what Melissa just said. It's starting with the profit you want to make, and then understanding what your revenue needs to be and your expenses need to be to get to that profit. So, it sounds like a dream, but it really can work, I think. And when we're talking about time billing, we talk about hourly time billing. And this is really a good structure for those that want to grow a firm.
Yeah.
This is maybe not an ideal structure for a solopreneur if you are going to stay solo forever. If you want to grow a firm, it's a great thing to do to set up your time billing as hourly. And we really believe that. That's exactly how we do it at Laura U Design Collective, our design firm. We've been doing it like this for years. And prior to that, we were doing some fixed sum, and I would lose my ass on every project because we would way over work every project, or scope would change. And I was too afraid to go back to the client to ask for more, as you do when you're a young business owner. So time billing hourly works really well for us. So Melissa, I guess give me a couple of takeaways about Profit First that you think are really strong that we actually use.
Yeah, I think the number one is looking at profit as a non-negotiable. It's a must. It's not a leftover. And I think sometimes, like, especially if you're looking at your financials, you say, okay, wait, well, profit is that number at the bottom. And I'm already
Yeah.
paying myself a salary to a degree. Like, I don't know about that number. But I think that really looking at it as a way to structure your budgeting and to structure what you want, like before you pay out everybody, like you should be allocating this fixed percentage of every dollar you spend to this. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're taking all this home. I mean, that would be fabulous. But it could be that you're in a growth stage and you want to reinvest money back into your business. Or maybe you are a solopreneur and you're like, okay, I don't want to be a solopreneur anymore. I need to hire 2 people and I want a physical location. Okay, well, where is that going to come from? And so I think yes, it does seem like a little pipe dream. Like, of course I want to make all this money, but you have to set that goal for yourself. Like you have to kind of document your desire, right? In order for you to be able to achieve that. So we're always looking at that number.
Yeah, and I think it's okay to set a stretch goal as a revenue number.
Yeah.
But let's work let's work through this. So I'm thinking like, okay, first you made a comment like, well, you're probably already paying yourself a salary through the business, and then what falls to the bottom is your profit. Not necessarily for everyone. When you're starting out, you're a small business owner and you only have a couple employees, you probably aren't paying yourself a salary. I don't think I paid myself a salary for the first 5 years. It was whatever fell out to that bottom line was hopefully what I was bringing home. Um, so now I'm happy to say I have paid myself a salary for a long time. And it is really nice if you're in the position to do it, even if it's a very small salary, start,
Yeah.
because I think it's really important to get it structured that way. Um, I don't know. I really like doing that. We're an S corp. I think that's important to point out as well. But I do think having that salary, that take home every month that's consistent is really great. Then your profit is extra. If you are profitable, you're taking that home. But here's something to consider. So related to hourly time billing and why I feel it's more profitable. You're billing for the time you're spending, and you're not losing anything. You're not leaving money on the table. As long as you are tracking your hours, which you should be, you're billing for that time you're spending. Same goes for your team. That hourly billing works so well if you have a team or are growing a team, because they are also billing for their time. You're paying them, but they should be, if your numbers are right, easily covering what you're paying them and then some. And our gross profit margin on design is about 52%.
Yes. And again, this is where that profit number really comes in handy because before we determine salaries or when we can hire somebody else, we're thinking, okay, can we afford them? And with that comes, okay, well, what is the profit percentage that I want to make on this person? And that really helps us determine, okay, how much do we want to pay them in salary? And then how much are we going to charge for them for their hourly billing? So I think sometimes people will think, oh gosh, well, I don't want to charge hourly billing, like fixed fee just seems so much easier. And what if I can do something in 4 hours, but charge 10 hours for it? Like, sure, that's great. More power to you. But if you're actually charging what you're worth and what you're valued per hour, hourly
You're
billing
going to
is
get it.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I agree. And I think like if you're hiring a junior designer, for example, you should easily be making even more than 52% on their time.
100% because they are 90% plus focused on doing client work.
Their production. Yep.
Mm.
Their time is billable. So that is our suggestion. I think let's talk like round numbers,
Yeah.
high level. When we're talking about entrepreneurs that have a team, let's just use a revenue of like $1 million just for ease. Um, and let's use 50% gross profit instead of 52 because I am not mathing.
Okay.
Um, you're dropping $500,000 of that million as gross profit. And so gross profit is anything that happens before your expenses, like your hard costs. We put our design salaries in cost of goods sold, right? Like we
Yep.
count that. That's above the gross revenue line. So that's counted as delivering that service. So
Yep.
that $500,000 on a million, from that 500 is everything it takes to operate.
Mhm.
So marketing,
Your physical
office,
location,
yes, all of these things that gets taken.
subscriptions, your CAD subscription.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So realistically, most firms, I think, are dropping about 10 to 15% to the net profit line. And that would be what you're taking home. So using round numbers, $1 million top line revenue, you're dropping on 10%, just for ease again, $100,000 to that bottom line. And you're not taking it all home, probably some of it staying in the business, but you're paying yourself a salary, whatever that is. And so you're taking home some of that bottom line, that net profit. So that's on $1 million, 100 grand is pocketed. Well, you're paying taxes on it regardless. It's net. So let's say you want to make $200,000 in profit. because we are profit first. That's what we're thinking about. So if we want to drop 200,000 to the net profit line, what levers are we pulling? What are we doing?
I think I mean, you're talking about doubling your profit at that point. So then the answer is revenue. If you're talking about, oh, I just need to make maybe 40,000 more dollars, then okay, we can start talking about reducing some expenses. Maybe there are some things that you can lean out on. We operate pretty lean already for being a team of 15.
We do.
So the answer is always revenue. And again, you're just like, oh, well, of course, I wish I could just pull that lever and make that money. Like, of course, that sounds so easy. But again, this is all about projection and goal setting, right? So this is you saying, I want to make this. Now here's my process, here's my path to doubling that revenue. And if you want to make that big of a change, it has to be more projects, more furniture.
Yeah, or better projects, more furniture. And we didn't talk about that. So we talked about time billing, but these big revenue numbers are not coming from time billing unless you have an enormous team, which we have a big team. Melissa just said 15.
Yeah.
Probably 11 or 12 of them are billing. But I don't think we're doing 2 million in design time billing.
I don't know. We're getting close.
Maybe close to, but we have a big team. But the majority of our revenue is coming from furniture sales.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So when you are increasing that, let's say you want to bring home $200,000, you're making a 10% net. Easy math says you're doing 2 million top line instead of 1 million. And so that can be bigger projects, better projects, more projects. More projects means you need a bigger team, probably. So bigger, better projects are where it's at. But you want to stay to where you're dropping still that 50% to your gross. Like you can't change that because then that's going to screw up your bottom line.
Yeah.
So margins are important. There's so much that goes into it.
Yeah, margins are important. I mean, you can go back and renegotiate with your vendors and get better terms. And then, of course, make more for the furniture that you would have sold anyway. So I think that that's also another route to go on. Yeah, there's 100 ways to.
Yeah. So
to
there's so many ways to do it. But I think that the bottom line is profit first. The idea is set what you want your profit to be and work backwards. I
Yeah.
want $200,000. I need to do 2 million in revenue. How am I doing that? Now you have a goal. You have real numbers behind it. How am I doing that?
Yeah. And I just think that that's a good North Star. Of course, I say that from an operations perspective, but we have other goals as well. We're talking about we want a project at X amount of furniture revenue, or we want to be published this year in national, or we're going to do 3 amazing speaking engagements. Like this does not replace those goals.
Yeah.
But I do think that you want to get serious about your business. You got to be serious about that profit and really make it something that you're guiding towards.
I agree. Yeah. So I think, yes, we have all these other goals, but when we're setting goals, I think it's important to point out that we start with a revenue goal. Our
We do.
revenue goal is at the top of our goal setting because that's the lifeblood of our business. That cash that's coming in is the wheel that keeps our business. It's the water on the wheel that keeps our business turning. How about that analogy? So yes, that is always top of mind, and we stretch and we may miss and
Yeah.
we do. That's okay. But all those goals that we're setting underneath, like being published or getting this fabulous project for a fabulous client, those are all supporting, like those are down there because they're supporting that overarching revenue number, which is based on the profit we want to make.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's doable. It's controllable. So
It is. And I mean, we've exceeded our goals some years. Like we've had some
we
better
have.
years. It was hard, but
It's always hard, whether you miss or whether you exceed, it's always hard. And I know that some of these numbers may sound unreachable, but they're not. I think it's just setting that number and going, working backwards and just chipping over time. But having it written down and having it top of mind in front of you, I think is critical. And it's going to just set you up to get closer or to exceed that number. Um, Even if you are like, let's say right now you're at 100,000 and you want to go to 200, totally possible. That's could be one project for you easily.
Yeah. Right.
So that is doable. Write it down, put it in front of you. You can do it. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think profit first is a really great way to look at it.
I don't know of any other ways to do it. Honestly, I just think that this seems so well structured and really keeps us on track because I think that you can get almost blindsided by some of the things that actually are glamorous in this business with the finished photo shoots and amazing photography and going to market because we just got back from that and getting published. But at the end of the day, you want to have a thriving business. You want to be able to go on vacation. If you have a team, you want to be able to pay them and you want to be able to pay them well. And I think if you want those things, you have to consider profit first.
Yes. Well, and it's a healthy business, right? Like
Right.
if you're not running in the black by the end of the year, if you're not profitable, this is a hobby.
Yep.
It's not a business. And there may be some years that you're not profitable and you lose money, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, that just happens. Maybe you're reinvesting, like you're reinvesting in your marketing so you have a better year next year. And this business is also very cyclical. Like we may have
True.
one year that is build, 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 build. It's a lot of new construction. There's no furniture. We're billing time, but we are not uber profitable because the furniture is where we're more profitable. And so that year is we call it our building year. Then the next year, all those projects that we've been building on are going to come to fruition.
Yep.
And that's when we're going to be maybe extra, like our revenue went through the roof that year where it was down the year prior. So this, just with the nature of this business, don't beat yourself up too badly because some of these projects can take 2-3 years. And that really affects your numbers.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing a lot of renovation right now in construction in a lot of projects, and so we're not going to see the big furniture until the very end of the year, early next year. Like next year is going to be great because we have these big,
God,
beautiful,
knock on wood.
and then we're going to photograph them, and it's going to be awesome. But now we're really thriving on that time billing.
Yeah, yes. And that's another reason to bill hourly. I'm going to keep going back to this. It is monthly revenue. It is monthly revenue. When furniture deposits and payments, the way we do it, you may do it differently, come in big chunks.
Yeah.
We get a big deposit up front, and then we use that deposit to order. When we get close to install, we request a second deposit. It could be the full final payment. It could be 2 of 3. And so those furniture payments come in big chunks. Hourly time billing is such a great revenue stream because it is consistent monthly.
Hmm.
Yes, it's hard. And yes, you got to track your time. And yes, you have to invoice your clients on the 10th of the month without fail. But it is great recurring revenue, especially when you're in between big furniture projects.
Hmm. Yep.
So here's a good follow up to that. Don't confuse your bank balance with spendable cash.
Yes, and we could have $800,000 in the bank, but
That's not my
400,000
money.
400,000 of that is going to vendors in that month because we've taken in some furnishings deposits. And so we talk a lot about cash flow. And of course, it's great to have cash flow in the bank. But I think you just need to set your expectations correctly for what those numbers really are. So we take a look at, yes, what's in the bank, but we also take a look at, okay, what's our AP to vendors each month?
What money? And that is so one of the premises of the book, Profit First, is that you have all these different bank accounts. We don't do this. And the point of having all these different bank accounts is to separate that money that isn't yours.
Yeah.
It's money that is not profit. It is money that your client gave you that you are then spending on their behalf to acquire their goods. And you need to protect that money because that's your job as a business owner. So in the book, Profit First, the author recommends setting up all these different accounts to track your spending, to track what's profit and what's not. We don't do it that way.
Have you ever done it that way? I find that kind of
No, that
complicated.
sounds like a misery. Like that sounds horrible. So no, I've never done it that way. And maybe he's onto something and he may be brilliant. I think it's insane. We have a couple bank accounts for LUDC,
Yeah.
but we track in our cash flow document and in QuickBooks with our accounts payable, we know exactly what's going out and exactly what belongs to us. Then
Mhm.
we also have our budget. So we're budgeting expenses. So we know what it costs to run the business. And so just with those numbers, and again, they can be easily round numbers. for you, 1 million is revenue. You're spending 50% of that to buy cost of goods sold. You got a chunk going out for expenses, 10% is yours. I think that's a good estimate. It may not be accurate for you. So make sure you're actually tracking.
Yeah.
Um, because again, do not confuse your bank balance with spendable profit. It may not be yours.
But we've gotten such good processes in place that I can rattle off the top of my head how much our monthly expenses are averaging, so I
Yep.
know exactly how much that's going to be.
Yeah.
We have our weekly meetings in operations, so I know how much is in AP now. The unfortunate thing about that is it changes so drastically. It could change $300,000 from one day to the next, depending
Yep.
on when we got that furnishings deposit. But I mean, we keep a pretty close eye on those numbers, and I know that that
We
might
have to.
sound tedious, but honestly, I feel like it can give us so much peace of mind, and then
Yes.
it just lets us know that okay, the business is really healthy. We can just keep going on business as usual. We can reinvest in it. Um, so yeah, I don't know.
Where we need to slow our roll and cut expenses where we can. Yeah. So we can dial it up or dial it back because we have that really solid insight into our cash flow.
Yeah,
It is what helps. I say this all the time. I sleep at night because of our cash flow tracking. I know exactly where I am at all times.
yeah.
Otherwise, I mean, I would feel so out of control. That like makes me want to break out in hives.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not doing that with your business, I wonder how do you get control of that?
If you're not doing that in your business, please, and you're not part of our community, please join now because I will help you.
Yeah.
Melissa will help you. We can help you get back your control.
Yeah.
Um, because you deserve it. I mean, you're working hard, you're cranking on that revenue, you're going from, point A to double, obviously, after this podcast. Yeah, so we can help you get there. But yeah, if I didn't have that cash flow document, I would not sleep.
I mean, I love the transparency. I mean, you have to know how you're measuring yourself, and how else would you know if you're successful? I guess if I could, if I don't see
Yeah,
it.
and like having a team, I know where to push them and what projects to push on. If for some reason they're slow rolling or they're not really keeping their momentum for any reason, I can say, hey guys, for as a business, this project, we are showing it's coming in this date as far as a deposit.
Yeah.
And the client, based on the milestones we've given them, is expecting us to be tracking to that. Why are we not? What do we need to do to course correct? And that way we always we've got a little more control over a process that can sometimes feel very erratic.
Yeah. I do want to talk about that. I think that could make a great other podcast. I mean, not being a designer, I want to know how you determined. I mean, I know how we built the cash flow document, but how we determine when we want to get furnishings deposits and how we want to collect them, because I imagine
Yeah.
that's not consistent among all designers. And I really like the way that we do it.
You want to talk about it now or you want to make it another podcast?
We should make it another one.
Okay, high level though, really quick, and we'll expand on this. Um, it's different for every furnishings project. So
Okay.
not everyone, but if it's furnishings only, we are working with clients who want to keep momentum. They want to follow our process. So we have a very strong design process, and we are starting at discovery phase, working all the way through after the install, post commissioning phase. And there are milestones between that are on a very predictable timeline. As I'm selling the service and project to that client, I'm talking to them about those milestones and when they can expect those big deposits and the bulk of the work to happen. So they're very aligned with our process. The design team's aligned to it. And so it is very predictable in that way. If it's construction, it's not as predictable, but we know, and we also communicate this to the client, we want to start furnishings design preferably 5 months before we are sheetrocking the house. When the house is being sheetrocked, when they are starting to put up gypboard, we want to be ordering furniture. Because as a designer, how long it can take to get certain pieces. Some pieces may come in quick.
Yeah.
Others may take 10 months. So
Right.
by the time we are closing up the walls, we want to be ordering furniture. And then that way we can work backwards from that sheetrock date, which is, it's flexible. but we work backwards in the design phases, and then we work from that for install or for ordering and install phases.
Mhm.
That's high level.
Yep. But then, of course, the client wants to do something. They add scope. The bill takes a little bit longer. Like there's just, I wish that it was always
Things out of our control for sure.
things that are totally outside of our control.
Yep.
And so then it changes that schedule a little bit. And then of course I'm like, why did we not get this deposit in? And the team's like, well, because of this, and that.
Because the build pushed out 6 months, and that's just how that goes.
Yep.
But
Or
we need to add that to the next one because we can talk about like, what do you do when that happens?
what do you do? Or especially, I mean, I think too, communicating the length of time it takes to receive a custom piece of furniture that's coming from Europe. Because
Yeah.
that's a conversation that we have to have. And I think that if you have never worked with a designer before, that's a really tough pill to swallow. They're like, hey, we've been talking, I've approved the design. It's great, but you're telling me I'm not going to get this for another 8 months. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Unfortunately, but that's why we set ourselves up the way we do. And that's why we follow this process. And it's okay to wait for those pieces that you may really, really want.
Oh, yeah.
And your client, if they, we'll install if we have 80% of the pieces, we will go ahead and install. And that's not the same for every designer. Some designers want everything before they install. Some will install a piece at a time. What we do is we collect everything. We want to have 80% of those items. And then we do our big install. But those straggler pieces, like our favorite chandelier from Murano or whatever from Venice, we're going to wait for that. And then we'll just install it when it gets here. But the client's not waiting for everything, just that one piece. And it's worth it. It's worth the wait.
Always.
Oh my gosh, we got to rein this in. Okay, we could talk about this forever. Okay, profit first means revenue, sales minus profit. That's the bucket of expenses you have left.
Yep.
That's
And
what
that's how we build our budget. So that's how we determine how much we want to spend on marketing, how much we want to spend on subscriptions.
Hiring.
And hiring. You may find out that like, oh, I have 12 different subscriptions and I really only need 3. It's very much just like managing your household. It happens. Things can go.
We have so many subscriptions, I don't even know what we're doing anymore.
But that's where we take a look every October. We're doing our budgeting and we're thinking profit first for the following year, and then things get cut. And I love it.
Or ramped up.
Yeah. Or ramped up.
Another good podcast would be marketing and why you don't ever cut it, even if you're looking like it's a down year.
Yes. Yep. And how to adjust that marketing budget to what you want to make. Again, I really feel like that those numbers are so important because we don't just set aside an X amount of dollars for marketing. We use it as a percentage. So that way it can fluctuate depending on how much we want to take in that year.
Profit first. All these levers you can pull. You've got this. Leaving it there.
I agree. But of course, now I have like 5 other ideas for other podcasts. It's just like, again, it's like
I made notes.
Number that triggers it to like 20 different things. I'm like, oh, we can talk about this, that, or the other.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, but this is a good place to start, I think. Like set your revenue goal with your profit in mind. What do you want to take home?
Yeah.
It's doable. You can do this. You can build a firm. You can. I promise. And it is going to give you freedom. I know it sounds crazy to hire people and thinking that'll give you more freedom, but it does.
Oh,
more time to do the stuff you want to do because someone is doing the things you're not good at and you're hating. Like you don't have to do those things. Someone else can do them. It'll give you more freedom and it'll increase your profit.
Yep.
It's possible. Thanks for listening. We're on a tangent. Thanks. And catch you on the next one.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to check out our next podcast coming live next week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. In the meantime, you can find us and more wonderful stories like these on designdash.com. And make sure to follow us at Design Dasher on Instagram and TikTok. Till next time.